Money is being stolen out of your pocket and put into the hands of people defrauding you. Not on the margins. This is happening at the highest levels of the American government.
So Ben Shapiro just dropped a bombshell investigation exposing massive welfare fraud while taking down Tucker Carlson's leftward drift. We're talking billions in stolen taxpayer money and the ideological battle for conservatism's soul. This connects to everything happening in politics right now.
Conservatives have always stood by the notion that government screws things up. Democrats build systems where waste, fraud, and abuse, that's the feature, not the bug. They love stealing money from some and giving it to others, all to make people more dependent on the government more broadly while blaming the free markets. It's disgusting, and it has to end.
He's absolutely right about Democratic program design. Complex bureaucracies with loose oversight aren't accidents, they're features. The more layers and confusion, the easier it is to hide fraud while claiming good intentions. Complexity equals political cover when things go wrong.
So this week, we have a series of bombshell reports after our reporters spent 2 months investigating the extent of welfare fraud in Ohio, where billions of dollars have now gone missing down the rat hole of government entitlement programs under the guise of home health care. Now, our goal at the Daily Wire is to smash the supposedly untouchable pillars of the welfare state. It's time to return to true conservatism. Truth is the only way to get there.
This investigative work is exactly what we need more of. For decades, Medicaid spending was essentially a black box. No transparency, no accountability. The Daily Wire is doing what traditional media won't, following the money trail that politicians want buried.
Think one address, 93 companies, no windows, totally empty, billed to you, the American taxpayer, $66 million over the last several years. Shell companies, fake billing, fake services, covered tracks until this very instant. So, Daily Wire has now uncovered via Luke Rosiak and our investigative team, Medicaid millionaires.
The brazenness here is staggering. 93 fake companies in one empty building billing $66 million. This isn't sophisticated fraud. It's so obvious it suggests the perpetrators knew nobody was watching. That's systematic government failure.
The people performing these personal services tasks don't have to be healthcare workers. In 2024, Ohio spent $1 billion on home healthcare. So they literally pay people Medicaid money to go to other people's houses to perform homemaking and chores.
$1 billion on home health care in one state alone. When you don't require actual medical training for, quote, healthcare workers, you've essentially created a government-funded employment program with zero accountability. The fraud writes itself.
They're the companies getting rich off of them. His overall impression, 99% of the facilities I visited had the hallmarks of waste, fraud, or abuse. We are talking about alleged criminality at a breathtaking scale.
99% fraud rate means this isn't isolated bad actors, it's systematic corruption. When legitimate providers are the exception rather than the rule, you're looking at a program that's been completely captured by criminal enterprises.
According to Luke, what's inside is 93 different companies signed up to bill Medicaid, each with a tiny office, often marked with a sheet of paper proclaiming some generic company name ending in Home Health LLC, and sometimes another piece of paper claiming the employees had just stepped out for a break. And again, this building, this address, billed taxpayers over $66 million over the last several years.
The paper sign saying employees stepped out for a break is almost comical. These operations didn't even pretend to be real businesses. It reveals how toothless government oversight has become when fraudsters don't bother with convincing facades.
A 40-year-old Somali gets paid for spending time with and maybe cooking for his own 65-year-old mom. Sitting in the middle is one of these thousands of home health firms that have an NPI number necessary to bill Medicaid. And then the 40-year-old becomes an employee of that company. But the only patient is mom. There's no way to verify whether he's providing services unless his mom is willing to rat him out. Maybe he even gives a portion of the pay to mommy as a kickback for allowing her social security number to be used.
This fraud model is genius in its simplicity. Family members billing to care for relatives creates an inherent conflict. Who's going to report their own son for fraud? The government essentially pays people to hang out with family while claiming it's health care.
Defraud our Medicaid systems, defraud federal taxpayer dollars, And then when somebody comes knocking on the door, you just claim that they are a racist.
The racism defense is the ultimate shield against accountability. Point out fraud patterns in immigrant communities, and suddenly investigators become the villains. It's weaponized identity politics designed to shut down legitimate oversight and protect criminal networks.
So again, people were ripping on Elon Musk over Doge, the Department of Governmental Efficiency. Well, they had a lot of after effects Doge. And one of the things they did is they revealed information into the public that allows journalists like Luke and our team, our investigative journalists here at Daily Wire, which we've been building for a couple of years, to go out and actually dig in. Luke was able to dive in thanks to those Doge documents. For decades, Medicaid billing data was a black box. It's one of the biggest government programs in human history. The public could not see a dime of it. And Doge changed all of that in February with a quiet data release that a lot of people missed.
Doge's data transparency is already paying dividends. Sunlight really is the best disinfectant. Once journalists could actually see the billing patterns, the fraud became obvious. This shows why government secrecy is so dangerous to taxpayers.
After all, if you're an advocate for a government program, you should want every dollar of that taxpayer money to go to someone who deserves the taxpayer money. But that's not what's happening. Democrats are irritated by the fact that people are uncovering this stuff.
Their reaction proves Democrats see welfare programs as political tools, not genuine aid. If they cared about helping people, they'd want fraud eliminated. Instead, they're angry at investigators because fraud supports their narrative of program necessity.
So, over the weekend, Spirit Airlines finally gave up the ghost. Spirit had entered bankruptcy in August of last year for the second time in a year. And its executives, according to the Wall Street Journal, developed a game plan dubbed Plan Charlie in case the company's fortunes could not be turned around.
This is the classic Democratic playbook. Block market solutions, then blame markets when problems emerge. They prevented Spirit from merging with a stronger airline, then act shocked when Spirit collapses. Regulatory interference has predictable consequences.
Now, Spirit is trying to blame the jet fuel prices for its bankruptcy. They're trying to declare that the war in Iran is what the real problem was. But that wasn't the real problem because, again, the other airline companies are not going bankrupt right now. Spirit was running on non-solid footing. Again, Spirit was famous for very, very cheap airline fares.
Exactly right. American, Delta, United, they're all dealing with the same fuel costs and market conditions. Spirit's unique vulnerabilities stem from being blocked from strengthening through merger. Other airlines prove the external factors weren't determinative.
And that theory is, if business gets bigger, that is inherently bad. So there are two theories of antitrust. Okay, antitrust is the idea that you can't have a monopoly dominating a market because then it can set prices wherever it wants. So if you had a grocery store monopoly in your neighborhood, theoretically, they could set the price twice what it normally would be because you don't have any other choices. Now, true monopoly is incredibly rare in the market because if the prices tend to skyrocket, somebody else wants to get in on that action. They open up a grocery store across the street. Typically, true monopoly requires government intervention on behalf of the monopoly. But there's a second theory of antitrust that is not about the consumer at all.
The distinction matters enormously. Traditional antitrust protects consumers from monopoly pricing. Modern progressive antitrust is ideological. It opposes business success on principle, regardless of consumer benefit. It's anti-capitalism disguised as consumer protection.
She put out a tweet saying, spiking fuel prices from Trump's war was the nail in the coffin for twice bankrupted Spirit Airline. For what it's worth, JetBlue merger failed because a judge appointed by Ronald Reagan said the deal was illegal. Republicans are desperate to shift blame from higher costs hitting families, but that's not true. Okay, the reality is that there was a block by the Biden administration on the merger between JetBlue and Spirit.
Warren's own tweets destroy her credibility here. She celebrated blocking the merger, then blamed Trump when Spirit collapsed. This is gaslighting in real time, taking credit for the policy that caused the problem, then blaming opponents for the consequences.
Quote, I've warned for months that a JetBlue Spirit Airlines merger would have led to fewer flights and higher fares. The Justice Department and the Department of Transportation were right to stand up for consumers and fight against runaway airline consolidation. This is a Biden win for flyers. So do you feel like you're winning now? There are fewer flights available. Do you feel like you are winning?
Warren promised more flights and lower fares by blocking the merger. Instead, we got fewer flights and lost jobs when Spirit died. Her predictions were completely wrong, yet she's doubling down. This is why progressive economic theory fails repeatedly.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because Tucker did a very, very long interview with the New York Times over the weekend that has struck a lot of conservatives as odd. Didn't strike me as odd because, of course, I've been watching what Tucker's been doing for a while. And what he's representative of is a demagogic right that despises free markets and meritocracy and believes there need to be special carve-out rights for particular groups. It is the mirror of the grievance party left. It's why I have suggested that the horseshoe right and the left are basically on the same page. They just have different groups they're trying to benefit.
He spotted Tucker's drift early, while others missed it. Horseshoe theory explains how populist movements on left and right converge. Both reject merit-based systems. Both want government intervention for favored groups. The tactics mirror each other perfectly.
I mean, here is Hassan Piker with the folks at Trigonometry basically saying the same thing, that capitalism will inevitably lead to authoritarianism.
My fear is that that is where capitalism inevitably leads.
Why?
If left unaddressed, because capitalism is always going to deteriorate.
When someone uses identical talking points to Bernie Sanders, they're not conservative anymore. Tucker's adopting leftist critiques of capitalism while claiming to represent the right. It's ideological confusion at best, deliberate deception at worst.
Want to restructure it in line with their own preferences. And Bernie Sanders' view on AI is basically the same as Tucker Carlson's view on AI, which is the same thing, by the way, as the Chinese view on AI, because China is trying to destroy us on the AI front. They're trying to outcompete us. Bernie Sanders, over the past couple of weeks, hosted a panel with literal members of Chinese universities on AI safety and governance.
This anti-market sentiment directly helps China's strategic goals. While we debate dismantling our tech advantages, Beijing races ahead with AI development. Economic self-sabotage isn't just domestic folly, it's national security vulnerability in great power competition.
That is always the outcome of this conspiratorial worldview. It is not a feature. It is not a bug. It is a feature. It is a thing that unifies. It is the glue that holds everybody together. Truly holds everybody together. And this is not speculative, right? Mehdi Hasan, who is a wild anti-American propagandist, he's out there saying that his relatives love Tucker Carlson now. I can't imagine why. Would that be because Tucker Carlson is upholding the virtue of Sharia law in cities around the world? Or would it be because he's doing propaganda on behalf of Islam's view of Jesus? Or is it because he's doing propaganda against Israel every single day of the week? Or is it because he is spreading conspiracy theories about how nefarious Zionists are in control of the American government?
When America's enemies praise your messaging, that should trigger serious self-reflection. Anti-American propagandists don't celebrate Tucker because he's advancing conservative principles. They celebrate because he's undermining American confidence and institutions.
By the way, he was asked about Nick Fuentes, of course, and he said that Senator Ted Cruz is more morally repulsive than the Nazi-standing Nick Fuentes. This guy is supposedly a leader on the right. All right.
Calling Ted Cruz more morally repulsive than actual Nazi Nick Fuentes reveals a completely inverted moral compass. This isn't just bad judgment. It's a fundamental betrayal of basic conservative values about good and evil.
It's a lie that the left is also propagating. It is a lie that America is a terrible place that is filled with nefarious forces beyond your control. They're actually in control of your life and wrecking America. And if that view of America prevails, then we are in serious, serious, serious trouble.
This ideological battle will determine America's future. If conspiracy theories about nefarious puppet masters replace faith in American institutions and free markets, we're finished as a constitutional republic. The stakes couldn't be higher right now.